worries. You're David.
No.
No.
You Juliet?
No.
Oh, well, there you go.
No, there we
We've got a lot in common.
Hello, good morning everybody. We're here live from truLondon. We're going to be discussing in this next track culture branding. I'm very pleased to have Bethan, Talent Acquisition Manager from RMS with me, and Patrick from Custo Social Media Monitoring. So we're going to get kick-started with the track. I'm going to ask for a short introduction from both of you guys, so I'll say ladies first.
Oh,
Bethan.
right, okay.
Just to tell us a little bit about what you're doing in your role and perhaps introduce the topic of culture branding.
Okay, all right. I am Bethan. I'm a talent acquisition manager for RMS in Europe and Asia. My role kind of split. I focus on recruitment, manage a couple of teams, but also recruitment marketing on a global basis, which is actually new. Had it for about 6 weeks now, 8 weeks. So, but it's from my perspective, recruitment is part of sort of the overall brand strategy, I guess, raising awareness of RMS as an employer of choice. So it's an important part of my role.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Bethan. And Patrick?
Patrick, I currently work for a big data company. We mine all the social media stuff you're talking about to use for monitoring web care. And in the future to mine all this for social sourcing. So how to find someone who's really an expert. I used to work for an employment marketing agency. So we'd come up with creative campaigns and then build websites, recruitment sites, games, Facebook pages. And just now we're having sort of a discussion about and brand ambassadors. It's really funny because everybody's talking about brand ambassadors. We need more brand ambassadors because you can't market or you can't buy a brand, but you need to be the brand, be authentic. But I've come back to that because we're spending loads of money on social media training for people who aren't actually really social. So in the end, all the good campaigns, which we find really authentic and really good, they're all driven by proper content marketers or community managers. And I've had big campaigns. We ask thousands of people, please provide us with your content. Nothing came. We'd all have to do it ourselves. Go into the organization, find the proper stories and market them. Because people won't talk about the stuff that they love by themselves.
So why do you think that is?
A really good programmer, he loves a good line of code. And he loves to talk about it. No, he doesn't want to talk about it. He's shy, he doesn't need to be in the spotlight.
Isn't it finding the right forum for him? So if he doesn't want to talk about it on camera, which can be quite daunting, what about a podcast? I mean, he could still be a brand ambassador, a brand advocate, but just do it in an environment that he's comfortable in. And it's actually, we were talking about this off camera, but it's something that we're looking at as a business, is creating an internal brand advocate book, sort of the facts about RMS and what we do, how we do it, all the kind of quick facts, the size of the business, how many people we have from a recruitment perspective, how many people come back to us having left us and want to have their career move forward. So we're creating that so everyone is a brand ambassador, but it's just finding the right forums, the right mediums for them to use.
I think you touched on a really important point there, Beth, because I think that the whole world of employment branding and the shift to what we talk now about culture branding is kind of evolved. A lot of marketeers were heavily involved in employment branding from an internal communications perspective, pushing out these messages, presentations, emails, and feeding the workforce with what they thought the company wanted to say to them. And I think, like you said there, culture branding is a lot more authentic in a way. So it's a lot more about presenting the real face of an organisation and saying, this is who we are, allowing the people to tell the stories for that company.
Yeah.
But I still have questions around how do you go about doing that when there are people, like you mentioned, Patrick, who are perhaps a little bit more shy, they don't want to do it, or they just haven't really considered themselves as a brand ambassador. So I'm wondering how and if you need a kind of storytelling team as a culture brand team to go out and deliver that message.
Create some roving reporters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like get another programmer to have a discussion.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, you don't need everyone. If you're an extension, you've got 150,000 employees. You don't need everyone to do a podcast or put something on Glassdoor. You just need a good team of people who want to be able to do that.
Get a few on the camera at the same time. Sorry.
Yeah, it's what you were saying before about trying to force people to be social when they don't want to be. And actually, I don't know whether it's when we were at TRU last time that somebody said one of the best places to find your kind of latent social ambassadors that you might not think about is if you've got your own internal social kind of network like a Yammer or a Chatter. You'll find that some people who might be in a quite obscure role but are very actively involved in talking about your company in a positive way and sharing, and actually those are the people that you want to try and tap into to just tell those stories in a more external forum. And there are lots of ways that, like you said, that not necessarily in front of a camera, but it could be on Twitter or something that's less scary.
It's almost like if you had to explain to your best friend what it was like to work at your company, you'd be really enthusiastic about it, but it's on a one-to-one basis.
Yeah.
All you've got to do is capture that.
Yeah.
That is genuine. You like the company. You think it's worthwhile your friend applying to work at that company as well because he's a good fit.
Yeah.
So it's almost trying
Maybe
to
there's a couple of snapshot photos of this is Jim at work, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in front of his computer, passionate.
The best stuff is the really crappy pictures, just pictures of.
It's real.
We'd send out people just in the morning and say, "Oh, you're gonna take 10 pictures just now. Just run off and take pictures." And the best pictures are the ones of the canteen. Because, why do you work somewhere? I mean, if it has a good canteen, well, that's a benefit as well.
Yeah.
Do you not think
just
companies
take
are very afraid of that still, though? Because I get the impression that the startup businesses who are quite young and funky and setting up as culture branding teams, like companies like Rackspace, for example, they have roving reporters, they have video crew on site, they're doing all this really cool
I don't think companies are afraid anymore. I mean, all top managers, they all know we need to do something on social media. It's sort of the gray middle area, and that's where the people are afraid, because they don't really have the power to really change stuff, but they have targets. They're sort of stuck in the middle, and usually they've grown into a position where they're stuck, and they're really good at managing a department, but not very good at marketing.
I think audio and video will be the way forward to get these messages across, because you're used to watching YouTube now. So many millions of downloads every month. You made one last week, which is
so with social media in mind, and I'm not a marketeer. I'm a recruiter for the last 15 years, but we created a job description video. And the idea, of course, is, and again, not every hiring manager wants to sit in front of a camera, but if they don't, then let's produce a podcast. We've got the written, let's have the verbal, and the visual. So we created it. It's not live yet. Watch this space. But we're hoping if it works, we'll create more in the US, in India, and when we hire in our Tokyo office as well. But it's just one way of embracing the way that social media is working and getting it out there.
Is it like an interview of the person and what the department?
So it's the hiring manager. Yeah. So literally, it's the hiring manager introducing herself, what the team does, a little bit about RMS. And what the role is and how it came about and what she's looking for. It's about a minute. We can probably cut that down a little bit more. She was a little nervous, but it gets the key points out. Then, if they're interested, then they can go to our website, or they could follow us on Twitter or on Facebook.
But how are you going to share that then? Are you going to socially share it, or are you going to share it through your internal network?
We will, yeah. We fill around 20% of our roles through referrals. Which is pretty significant. We fill 20% of our roles through internal transfers because we like to promote from within and keep folks developing. But we will certainly push that through our key networks. So I think the idea is we will probably start with LinkedIn, look at the groups on LinkedIn, look at those. So it's an account manager role within our service team. We'll probably have each of those account managers that we already have within our business send it out to their own contacts through LinkedIn, because that's the market, that's the target audience we're aiming for.
What's the call to action in the end?
Apply,
or is it...
Absolutely, apply. Or if RMS is interesting but the role isn't, come and talk to us. We have a 2-hour chat session between 5 and 7 every day, Monday through to Friday, where you can actually just chat to somebody within RMS, within the talent acquisition team. You can mention that you've seen the video. Maybe RMS is a great company and you want to join us, but not sure that this is the right role. Have a chat with us. It's another way of getting us out there. It's the accessibility.
If you stripped away all your branding, both of you know, if you stripped away all the employer-facing branding that you put out there, just all your visuals and the photos of people's, you know, on the job and stuff, the cultural branding side, what change do you think that would make to what you guys do? Would you do anything differently? And would it necessarily be a bad thing?
Well, if you're taking all of that away, you're talking about a job description as well, because the corporate environment is conveyed through your job description. So,
well, the job description is a document with some bullet points and some text on it, isn't it?
Quite boring as well.
Exactly, absolutely.
I'm just thinking, you know, all the visuals, all the branded, and people, you know, the human faces and all that sort of stuff. They've took away all the people. I'm wondering, would companies, would employers do things in a different way? I've got my thoughts on it, but I'm just wondering with you.
I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
What do you mean? How do you start?
I'm thinking that sometimes a lot of employers, they're over branding, and it doesn't feel like the job seeker. It's their community. It's their place where they can necessarily fit in. It's not none of it's about the job seeker. None of it's focusing on the job seeker. What's important to them. It's all about, hey, look at us. You know, these are people at work, and try and connect with these people at work. You know,
I'm probably going to disagree with you.
That's right.
The reason why. The reason why I had this eureka moment about creating this is with the candidate experience in mind. RMS won the Candidate Experience Award last week with distinction, and I'm so immensely proud of that, because we've got a great process, but we've got a great team that deliver that. Anyway, I'm digressing. But we thank you very much. But
you can't take away your
we created this video with the candidate experience in mind. We want somebody to look at that and think, well, yeah, you know, I'm not going to waste my time applying for this because maybe this isn't the right company for me. And in that case, they haven't spent time putting a CV together that is relevant to the role, putting it through to our applicant tracking system. They haven't done all of that. So we've saved them that time, but equally, we've also hopefully given the opportunity to look at our business and look at Louise, who's the hiring manager, and say, actually, I really want this. They may actually make more of an effort to create a better better resume CV to send through to us. So this is the idea. We're trying to get through to them.
I think that's really interesting. Laura and I were away with Kelly actually last week at a conference, and a EMEA-wide conference, and we were talking about exactly the same thing, is that the employer brand, and we were talking about it from a Kelly perspective actually, and bringing people into our own company, but you know, you can paint this very rosy picture, but actually part of your culture brand, which is kind of the warts and all in a way, because it is real people in the business talking about your own business, but part of that is actually to discount people that wouldn't be the right fit, because you don't actually want 300-400 people applying, some of those joining the company and not being culturally right.
So because they'll leave in the end.
So it is about improving the candidate experience as well, because then it's bad press, you know, the good press gets the good press.
And I'm thinking about the candidate experience, where I'm coming from, because, you know, and coming from the previous track.
Candidates or the employee experience?
The candidate experience, because I think if we removed a lot of the branding that we the cultural branding, and I think what we're in a world now, like on Facebook, everyone is saying the culture brand now. Everyone's saying we're about real people, and you know, and all that sort of stuff. All the photos all start to blend in. I don't really feel like there's that much differentiation. But what you can differentiate on is the experience that you provide to the candidate, and that experience could be one that is completely social. It could be like a conversation. So you strip away all that branding, and you're forced to start talking. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. And you start asking the job seekers questions. I don't think enough of that is actually happening.
That's almost going to culture and not culture branding. I think there's a difference, and I think what you were saying earlier is, I think you can actually dismiss the word brand, and I think you can just go to culture, because that's what you focus on. Because then, by essence, it's a brand. And I think if you're focusing on brand, you're focusing on the wrong thing. Strip it off. Look at culture. What's your purpose and vision? What does everybody know that within the company? Because then you're not having to worry about branding it, because you are living it, you're walking it, and that's what it's about.
From my experience, there's thousands of different cultures within an organisation. You know, like there's different business groups, and they have a different culture. There's different. You know, the programmers, they've got a culture amongst themselves, and they're often passionate about things that the rest of the employees aren't. You know,
but you're on the same page with business, so
I agree.
you have to, regardless of where you work in the business, if you don't believe in what your business is doing, you don't fit into that culture automatically, because you're not living and breathing what the vision of the business is. If the business provides you with the vision, then you kind of stuff anyway, because you're all sort of sitting there going, well, I've got my vision and you've got your vision.
We're not putting together as a team.
I 100% agree with you, but I don't know whether that's really that important.
I think it is.
I mean, it's absolutely crucial.
I've been a contractor for the last 6 years, so funny enough, I tend to go out looking for jobs roughly every year or so when my contract comes to an end. So as a person who regularly looks for jobs and has the last 18 months been in a space where I've been recruiting and resourcing people, I've kind of had both sides. And it's still important to me that the more information I get about somewhere, the more informed my decision is about the area I'm going into. The less information someone gives you, genuine information, and they just rely on the person to just look at the website and do their research for the interview. You go in, you tend to find that actually you're probably not going into the right culture, because you think, oh, fantastic, it's a really good job spec and their website's really flashy and the person really sold it to me. But actually, if I don't know what the culture is, you tend to go and you figure out within the first sort of 5-10 minutes of being somewhere if it's the right fit for you.
That's right.
And that's important.
I hear you, but I think that some organisations are starting to take on people into their organisation that are challenging the traditional culture. They want to shake up the culture.
But that's a change, though. That's not a business that knows their culture, and that's a business that's maybe behind the curve slightly and are trying to change their internal vision and their internal culture. A business that maybe has got a really grounded culture, and they know the kind of people they want, they know the kind of, things that they want from the people that are coming into their business, they can probably brand, it's a completely different type of brand strategy that you're going to go out into the market.
Do you agree, though, that when everyone's starting to do that, everyone is, take away the word branding and culturizing out their personality, their vibe of who they are, do you think it all starts to blend in, and everyone?
No. I think it's the opposite. If you have the culture of a company, so either one thing, you have your culture and it's a very grounded one, therefore you have a very strong purpose and vision. You have absolute clarity on where you're heading with that company. If you want to change the company, you have to change the culture. The culture is the very starting point of companies. It's the very essence. So either you're strong with that and it's okay with that and that's going to carry you forward, or as a company, maybe you've been taken over, and then it's the culture you change first before you can change anything else. That mindset, the culture of it has to change.
And that's difficult. And that's difficult from an internal perspective, and it's difficult from the perspective of people going out to the marketplace to attract people within that new culture. But I think that what you guys are talking about is a distinctive culture, one that you're all really proud of, really well, and everyone's grounded in that, and there's no need to change it because it's working.
Yeah.
If you're changing a business from what you've just said, then that's when you need to change the culture. That might be when it gets confusing and blends into everything when people go out to the marketplace.
It's about taking a step back in a way, I think. I'm just going to use the example of the Ritz-Carlton, the big hotel chain. Their brand essence is all about ladies and gentlemen who serve ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And that's their internal culture, but that's also the brands that they're presenting.
It's probably quite formal, and they use last names and all that stuff.
And I can think of several other companies who are doing that very well. Virgin, for example, it's all about the customer experience. rackers, they're fanatical about customers, and that is then inbred somehow back into the culture and the way that they treat each other within that business, the way they treat potential candidates. So I think, even though I like to drop the word brand, I think it's important to bring the brand back into it, because we often argue, is there such a thing as an employer brand, a culture brand, and a brand of a company? And I actually think they're one and the same. Because of the way that we socialise in the networks that we have available, the intersection between employee experience, customer experience, potential employee experience, if you looked at that in kind of one broad circle, I think there's so many different intersections now that you have to say, this is us, this is our brand. And this is
I like the idea of the overarching message. I get that. I get the overarching values for an organisation. Like Richard Branson, and his personality is definitely, throughout Virgin, and Steve Jobs with Apple, etc., etc. But I just think a lot of this is just broadcasting. From a recruitment perspective, it's like, hey, this is our culture. We're going to push it out there. But it's not it's not getting to know the job seekers and what their passions are and how they fit. I feel like there's a real disconnect there.
I agree with you. It's a one-way exercise at this stage. It probably needs to be a two-way exercise. But I think it doesn't matter how big and great and fantastic your brand or your culture is, whatever you want to call it. It's all going to fall flat when you have a crappy candidate experience. And you said just now, you've built up this brilliant candidate experience. And to now have the video on top of that, publishing what the culture's like, and we are a fantastic company.
We've got to get the basics done really well first. And, we're not perfect. We try to give a really good candidate experience, and we've got the award for that, and that personally is amazing. Now what we're trying to do is to talk about it a little bit more. RMS is not a brand. You've probably never heard of us. We're a small business, a growing business. We've been around 25 years, but we're a market leader in a sector that we help pioneer, which is catastrophe risk modelling. So man-made and natural disasters, terrorism, pandemics, tsunamis, earthquakes, those disasters that unfortunately wipe out life and property. And so, we don't have the big brand name. Our marketing team focus on our clients, and what we're trying to do is to talk about us. We're not trying to push it into people's faces. We're just trying to get it out there.
What I think you're doing really well is, you go. What I think you're doing really well is, I think you're innovating, like with the video.
We're a very innovative
just job description and all that sort of stuff. And I think from a candidate perspective, I'm attracted to organisations that do innovative stuff. The innovation brand
and this is
really important.
Absolutely.
The medium is the message. The fact that you're using new stuff.
Absolutely.
You could do
this is a reflection of our.
You're creating an experience for me. You're not just showing a whole lot of visuals of people doing innovative stuff. You're creating a whole new way to engage.
Absolutely.
And I like that. To me, that comes back to the candidate experience, and I just think that's.
If this video can engage, oh great! Give me my card later. We should be hiring you.
But you pay for relocation.
It's negotiable.
But I also I think you're a cool person and all. Like what I so far.
It's an elite.
Early days.
Something 3 hours. It feels like a job interview.
But the thing is that I'm engaged with you. I haven't engaged with your visuals and anything like that.
Absolutely.
I'm not writing off that's not important. I'm not writing off that your culture's not important. I agree that.
But the culture is driven up by the employees.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. I think that as a professional marketeer, that marketeers can create this employer brand, but actually. It's the other way around. You've got to have the culture first. So when you start with that, and then the branding of that is just how do you communicate that externally? But the culture.
I don't fully. I think you can actually push the culture by advertising and marketing.
No, totally. That's what I'm saying. But you've got
in essence, needs
you
to be
are
good,
marketing what the culture
you need to tell
actually
people who you are, don't you?
But also,
even me, who has played Jefferson.
That's a gentle push.
Because it isn't. It's not in your face. Yeah, and it's that transparency. This is what we're about, and we're being open and honest. We have integrity with what we do, and we're showing that. And I think there's absolute value.
Yeah, and let's be honest. In this day of kind of social media, if somebody wants to work for your company, the first thing I do before you're going to meet somebody, well, you Google or you go on LinkedIn to there. So absolutely, that is part and parcel of your culture. Is all of that, those individual people that work for the company aggregated together is part of your employer brand, as well as videos, your website, candidate experience, Glassdoor. But that totality is the embodies the culture.
Well, it's like a person.
That's what becomes your culture brand.
But companies are embracing that more. And for example, if you go on to and maybe just one particular demographic of sort of industry, and if you go onto a digital space or a marketing, they now on their websites have their people, because actually what they want candidates and clients and things to do is to have that transparency and that accessibility to their people, rather than just always pushing through to the same person.
Yeah.
Because you never know who's going to be looking at your site. It could be an employee, someone coming in to want to work for you, or it could be a potential, client that wants to come and work for you. So, that ability to have the transparency, not just for a candidate, but for any other type of business, is invaluable. And having the innovative sort of things makes people want to come and work for you, not just want to work with you. It kind of covers all bases, and you get the whole circle, not just the candidates, you get clients and other things.
The image of the people is very important, because with these stock photo libraries, the number of times I've seen that girl sat at the laptop going like that.
A lot of people do that in the workplace.
How many companies does she actually work for? I want to see the real person who likes something.
And that's exactly what this is. I think the smart companies are really taking that, what you just said there, one step further, and they're saying, okay, so this is our corporate website, and we understand that not all candidates are going to want to browse on the corporate website, so we're actually going to create a place for candidates to go, which is completely authentic to the point where it can be for that company. And what you do tend to find is that the companies who are doing that have dramatically reduced the number of CVs that they receive, like you said, Beth, but at the same time they increase the quality, because they're getting people who are sticking on certain pages of their website are proven then to go so far down the line with the recruitment process, because they feel like they know what they're getting. They feel like they've done a deep dive already, and okay, I understand this company doesn't have the flashiest offices in the world. They don't give me free lunch, but what they do allow is for me to work like an entrepreneur. And that for me is really appealing, as opposed to being perhaps treated like a machine. And, I think all of these kind of discussions are also really important.
I think the other interesting point is that, the debate that we started today was around culture brand and what's like the culture brands. And automatically, perhaps because of our audience being recruiters, we think about that in terms of bringing people into business. But actually, culture brand is equally important for the people that are in the business, in terms of retaining them, in terms of engaging them, in terms of helping them progress their careers. What does it mean for them? Also for them to refer other people. But, it's not just, or it shouldn't just be externally facing. It should be, how does that manifest itself internally, and what can we do to share that and harness it internally?
Which brings that freedom at work then, doesn't it? Because you know exactly how you fit in, what it is, purpose and vision, bringing that through, and you're going to get so much out of the individuals that work with you. They're going to stay with you. They're, and like I said, they will bring the referrals, bring everything else with them. But you have that engagement and that real passion and that fire for working for you.
I was triggered by your comments about you have 20% internal recruitment. Really
Absolutely.
Which is amazing.
How many people in your company?
Oh, just over 1,000.
Okay.
So mid-size.
200 a year then, moving around, isn't it? It's quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, we
but
support
otherwise they move out, and now they move in.
Well, I think this is, we talk about culture. Our CEO, Hemant Shah, was at Stanford University when he created the company. And so the very nature of our business is always about learning. We have teams of scientists. Again, scientists want to learn. They want to know how physics impacts the world,
Explain the world.
and why we're all here. But so our culture, our sort of the backbone of our business is about growing and learning, and this is what we encourage. And we do surveys and got engagement surveys for our internal population as well, just to see if we're actually hitting the mark. That's a HR piece, but you know, if we're not hitting the mark and something needs to change, then usually that starts with recruitment and looking at, you know, the type of people we're hiring.
If an organisation, so we always better.
It's time today.
What about like a caustic brand? You know, an organisation, an employer that's got a not very sexy or attractive brand, or is being slammed out there in the press, you know, media, like BP with the big oil spill. You know, do we?
That's their corporate brand, isn't it? Versus
your employer brand.
Their culture.
Yeah, but we'll say it's a really crappy brand internally. You know, that the employees, the engagement is crap. But they might be very high profit.
Well, as long as you know it. I mean, Apple, they have a fantastic consumer brand, but the employer brand, I wouldn't work there. So there's a big thing. But as long as you know, okay, there's a dictator in the top, and he's going to shout at me, and I just need to do my stuff. But he pays me, and as long as I know it, as long as I
you make an informed
decision. Outside of that as well, their reputation in China, where they actually have these phones made. There's people protesting now, isn't there? That they've worked so hard and long hours. So it's not just about the internal work for the company, it's the supplier.
But on the other hand, if you walk into an Apple store, you'll see people with multiple piercings, you know, that they encouraged a lot of diversity in their workforce. So likewise, whilst a lot of people don't want some of the parts of that, there's a lot of people who say, well, actually, this,
as long as they can do the job, right?
And Microsoft, you go into a Microsoft store and it's a very different feel.
True.
I think what's also interesting that I've just thought while we're talking is, as individuals now, particularly Gen Y, that kind of want to, you know, have that recognition, but people considering maybe what's the impact of that employer brand on their own career. So if they work for a certain company and work with that culture, so for example, you know, if I work for Apple, what does that say about me as a person, and how's that going to help me in my career? So it's people wanting to be associated with those companies as well. You know, that certain companies that have that magnetic force, isn't it? Because that's obviously the whole point of a culture brand. But it's about your own individual kind of employer brand and persona. And what does it say about you?
But I think we've had a discussion outside of it, and actually I think it's becoming increasingly important for people to not just move for a job, but to move for a place, and know that actually the culture of that place or the people within that business are on, you know, the same level. They have similar like-minded thoughts, that actually you'll be allowed to do things that maybe don't necessarily sit within your remit. So, you know, you might produce content, but you tend to find that some businesses only ever produce content of someone from a certain level, and they maybe don't let some other, you know, parts of the business produce content, and they've got just as many great thoughts about the business. And I think it's becoming important for people to move for culture and to be sure that they fit.
But do you know what, Jules? Probably the companies with the best culture brands are those that empower their people the most.
Yeah, absolutely, and they stay. And people want to move for that, because it is becoming more important for people nowadays to be in a culture where they feel that they can do their job, but they actually feel that they get the business and that people get them, and not just what they do at work, but them entirely.
I've often heard like culture brand being defined as, or employee brand is being defined as what people say about you when you leave the room, you know.
Just don't wait.
I don't know if we ask our employees enough to define the brand. And if they were going to do an elevator pitch to a friend or a colleague, hey, come and work with us, it'd be great to take a cross section of employees and ask them to just what are some of the key words. You've got 2 minutes. What are some of the key words, or put together a sentence, or however you want to do it. You know, how would you do that stuff?
But that's where your listening and dialogue comes back into. I mean, it's a cycle. But I think as well, people say, oh, you know, we do engagements, that we do it once a year. It shouldn't be once a year. This is something that is ongoing.
Real time.
Absolutely, listening and dialogue. You know, communication, open. It's two-way.
Yeah.
And again, to that would then go back to your purpose and vision, which would go back to your culture. So everything is linked. It's
I think if culture brand is important to a business, then they really want to know how their employees feel about work. It's not how they think about work, it's how they're really feeling. It's that emotional contact, isn't it? And I think that's where a lot of the more kind of old-fashioned companies are looking at the way people are thinking about work and having their internal communications department pushing out these messages like, you know, this is who we are, this is who we want to be, whereas the other companies are spinning it on its head and saying, well, actually, I feel great today in my job, so I'm going to serve that customer really, really well, and I'm going to talk to a potential candidate who I'm going to make feel really passionate about my organisation. And Patrick, I just want to touch on your experience because you have some interesting thoughts from your experience in China, I think. So I think it's useful to get that kind of sense of what's happening in a different part of the world, perhaps.
Thinking back on a conference call I did from Holland to China, and if you talk about culture, I mean, it's not, you don't say no in China. So it's really difficult to get back feedback.
It's the same in India. So I've got a team in India, and two-way dialogue is very difficult because you won't get a yes, you won't get a no. You'll just get sort of a head movement, and that's it. So having
it's
that
sort of
dialogue
both
is
a threat and an opportunity through social media because it's quite hard to find people to be active because they're still afraid. Oh, my boss is not gonna like it. On the other hand, you see more and more people because they find out they have a voice outside of their workplace where they can actually sort of freely tweet around. So it's.
So what do you do when you've got a multinational, international company to create that culture brand across, or to create, how does that culture join up across all of those communities, or how do you capture that? Or?
Gosh, that's a whole can of worms, isn't it? I actually hate using the word culture because it's got so many different connotations. When you're working for an international company and you say the word culture, you automatically think of different nationalities or whatever it may be.
The essence of the company, then.
The essence, we like that. That's essence is good. That's a tricky one. I'd have to think about that.
A lot of it's about local culture, though, isn't it? That's brought in and supports and sustains your overarching culture.
So it's about the vision again.
Yeah.
It's about being aligned.
I don't think you can expect them to work the same way as we do in the UK.
The vision could be global.
No, I'm not suggesting you do, but I'm just saying it's quite, if you're talking about some of the, organisations that are recruiting globally, because again, what you don't want to do is portray an image of something that's not the reality.
Yeah, correct. And I think there's a lot of companies that do expect. Because I have an office overseas, they're going to work exactly the way we do here in the UK or in the US or whatever.
Day one and
and they expect that. And they expect the culture to be exactly the same. It's a big shock when they do get out there and find that they actually need some local management presence and leadership that shares the common culture
I
and
think
the vision.
The corporate branding can be global, but it's quite hard to have a global employer brand. Even for the Rabobank, for example, the Dutch bank, I mean, the corporate brand is we used to be a farmers bank, and then in Holland, the employee branding and the employment culture is really friendly. It's actually really, really hard to fire someone at the Rabobank. No, but the Rabobank International, it's really, really American style. I mean, it's really, the IT manager used to rotate like every 3/4 of a year because they would all stress out.
Oh my gosh!
There's a real different internal culture within the same corporate branding. It's really different, completely different companies.
There's always going to be regional and local nuances to how people work, and we see the difference between the UK and the US. One of the challenges that I face as a sort of international recruitment manager is trying to educate some of our US hiring managers when they're hiring in India that they're not going to get exactly the same candidate as they would in California or in London because they're different ways of working. And I almost feel like I should talk to HR about and learning and development about giving them training on understanding the nuances between territories. Whilst we may all of us carry the RMS brand, we have to have that appreciation of different styles and essence.
I was speaking to...
but also within, I mean, we have 21 different languages spoken in the London office of 175 staff. So again, you know, whilst they're all based here, we have an amazing diversity, which we're so proud
That's
of.
part of your culture.
Absolutely,
That you are
absolutely.
inclusive and, you know.
Yeah.
Imagine the menu in the canteen. Different languages.
Alas, we have no canteen.
What was the downside?
I know.
I was speaking to one of the pre-sales engineers from Huawei, Chinese company, Chinese electronics company. They're massive in China and they're growing huge in Europe and the States. And his job in the UK is to be an internal cultural ambassador for Huawei China and teach UK sales teams about life in China and how the company operates there, and to develop better relations and better understanding of how things happen in China. And that's part of his role.
So I think in a way it's about, well, at least what I hear from almost everybody is that it's about taking what's unique about the business, and it's about taking those unique points and then presenting them and having the employees, wherever they might be in the world, having them live out those unique values. But what I'm also wondering is, whose responsibility is that? Is it HR, marketing? Who's responsible for setting the vision?
Yeah, it is everyone.
It is everyone.
And how do you think, because I also agree, I think it's everybody should be involved in this, but how can you, when you're working for a big company, how can you get everybody involved, and how can you make them feel like it is their responsibility?
So we're talking about setting the vision or communicating the vision here?
I think both, in a way both.
Because I think setting the vision could just be done by quite a dictatorial leader. So this is our values in our organisation, and everyone else has to espouse it, you know.
Yeah.
Or you got to find the words in which to put this across, and maybe it is being authentic, you know, about the culture, cost it or not. You know, it might not be very attractive, but it's being authentic. I still think in all this process, if I went into the room here and said, "Hi everyone, I'm Paul Jacobs and I'm blah 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 blah, and I've come from New Zealand, and I'm blah blah blah," you know, I'm not having a conversation. I'm not asking you questions like, "Where are you from? Do you work in London?" I still don't think we're doing enough of that. I think maybe it's the medium in which we
Well, we
live
used
the
to
culture.
broadcasting, we used to put ads everywhere.
Yeah.
It's almost you're coming in, put an ad for yourself. I'm Paul.
Yeah.
Come and talk to me. Where it should be you going to find out, starting to talk to other people.
I want to emotionally engage with, you know, I'm thinking of it in a recruitment context and with job seekers. I want to tap into what their emotional drivers are, what their motivational
You would
drivers
do that. So the idea of sort of recruitment marketing, recruitment branding, whatever it may be, is to at least just get an interest, and then we can talk to them. I mean, at the end of the day, we have an 8-10 hour working day, 5 days a week. A recruiter's job is never done, so maybe the odd weekend. But I think you can engage once they've actually said, "I'm interested in you."
If you were after a risk analyst for your organisation, and you could be the voice of risk analysis in the marketplace. You could take away all your information about your company and stuff like that, but you're perceived out there, powered by RMS. Yeah?
Yeah.
So your logo is just really small down the bottom. Yeah. But you are the voice, and you're tapping into those emotional drivers, those passions of those risk analysts out there. It might be really damn effective in a recruitment context, because no one, you're saying, you know, people might not necessarily know about RMS, but they know that they're passionate about their profession. So,
why do you want to take away the brand? Because you're constantly taking it away. It's a benefit. I mean,
sometimes.
Yeah.
because I don't think
Why would you?
Because I don't think that we're making the job seeker the hero enough in the process. I think it's still that push, and it's about.
But I mean, I have a company and I want someone to work for me. It's not that I'm providing my company to to the job seeker. No, it's the other way around. I need someone to do something for me.
But once they're engaged, once they say, yeah, you know, RMS or whatever, you know, that account manager role on that video looks pretty interesting, I'll reach out and maybe I'll contact RMS at 5 o'clock on the chat, just to chat. That's when we can engage. That's when we ask the question, well, tell me what you'd want to do. Give me, why are you interested in this opportunity? What do you want from your career? And we will have very honest and candid discussions with them. If RMS is not right for them, we will tell them. But that's when we engage. We can't engage with everyone so personally. There's 3 of us in a team.
But you could engage with an occupational vertical, and you could be seen out there as being, I'm sure you've got competitors out there in the marketplace, and they're probably not they're not the voice of risk analysis out there, but out of those risk analysts. I just think there's always different ways of cutting and slicing this.
It's like being a blogger, the expert blogger. You talk about the subject, and someone might then, in 3 months' time, I remember she works for so-and-so. I'll get in touch.
Okay, guys, I'm just aware we're running out of time, so I'm just going to do a quick round and just to get one synopsis or summary of the session. So maybe Rachel, can I make you start?
Key takeaway?
Yeah, just one key takeaway from the session.
For me, culture branding is about empowering people within the organisation and giving them a voice.
Just one.
You've challenged my thinking here, which is good. I thank you for that. I've still got some views. I think we're moving slowly. Some organisations I know are moving from culture branding to immersive branding, where it's all becoming more about the job seeker. So that's my thoughts.
Well, you triggered me as well. So the balance all the way towards the candidate, and I'm also triggered about the internal moving around. I think we do that not enough. So thank you.
I think we've had a great session. For me, it's very interesting to hear all the different case studies, and I think that for me it's still about that having one brand, and it's interspersed in customer experience, candidate experience, and employee experience.
And for me it's delivered by everyone, and not just a small number of brand advocates. It's everyone.
And it's all about being genuine.
Absolutely. Authentic.
Yeah, I think I'd mirror that. It's everybody involved. So you have that freedom at work cycle. And I don't think you can separate. I don't think you say it's culture on its own. It's everybody. It's all together. And it is ever changing, even if it's ever so slightly. So yeah, now I've taken a lot away. Thank you.
I think I'm with everyone else on the start, but I think part of that is that you make sure that the voice you go out with is the voice of the brand. So that's kind of really important for me, that if you're going to go out there, you say it, and you say it how the brand speaks and the culture speaks, and it's all joined up. So
I think the ambassadors are there whether you like it or not, and it is every staff member. And if they've got a social presence, whatever it is, if they're Googleable, then they're going to be your ambassadors. They're going to be embodying your brand by some mechanism online, and you need to be able to work with that and understand that is happening. And I think you need to then develop strategies for dealing with that and educating and helping. And go back to the beginning, get the stories out of these people and understand what it is that motivates them, but will motivate others to come in and keep that retention going through the organisation.
Okay, thank you everybody.
Thank you.
Good luck.